Hello students, hope you are doing well. So here we have a text and directions for questions are there is a passage below which is accompanied by a set of questions. We need to choose the best answer to each question. Well, I assume that you have already gone through the text. So yet I would like to give a very small idea pertaining to this particular text. So the text discusses the care and nurturing of children, isn't it? Uh, as well as if you look into it, it is discussing about the children in medieval times and highlighting the similarities between medieval parenting um, and contemporary parenting. It mentions how medieval parents spent time with their children, provided stimulating environments, and used various methods to teach their children to talk and walk. The text also indicating about what? The text also touches on the use of baby walkers in medieval times. Overall, if you talk about that, um, it gives or it emphasizes that despite the challenges of a high infant mortality in the medieval era, parents in that period took good care of their children, similar to modern parenting practices. So that's what you would find out. The text is trying to give the um, summary of it, or this could be called as a kind of a main idea as well. So if you look into that, we could say the text is to describe how medieval parents cared for and nurtured their children, including methods for teaching them to talk and walk. It also highlights the similarities between medieval and contemporary parenting practices and underscores the idea that medieval parents took good care of their children, isn't it? So this is what you would draw out of them. If I talk about the tone of the authors, so what is the tone? The tone could be known as a informative one, informative one, and descriptive also, informative and descriptive. Descriptive. The author is providing information about parenting practices in medieval times without expressing a strong emotional or persuasive tone. So if I look into the style of the passage, so the style of the passage would be what? The writing style is primarily in an expository manner, isn't it? So um, we also find out means the argument or conclusion of the text. So what do we draw? Now we can say that the text doesn't present a strong argument or position actually. Instead, it provides, you could say, historical information and observation. Historical information and you can say that observation. Observation. About parenting practices in medieval times. Fine. The passage also ends with a kind of a conclusion that called as that it ends by highlighting the similarities between medieval parents and modern parenting practices, isn't it? And the care provided by medieval parents to their children. This is what. Now, let's go for the question and see that what the question uh, here it asks. If we look into the question, so we can find out the question asked, the passage mentioned that medieval parents, like contemporary parents, were preoccupied with teaching their children to talk. Which of the following is a potential flaw in the argument? Right. So that is what it asks. Let's see that uh, if I look into the kind of a questions answer, the answer options which are given here, four options. The first option says uh, the passage does not provide information on the types of language spoken by medieval parents, whether were the same as contemporary language. So option two stated the passage does not mention the role of formal education in teaching children to talk. And the third one, which is pointed, the passage does not consider the possibility that uh, contemporary parents may have different motivations for teaching their children to talk. And the fourth option, which is said, it assumes that the methods for teaching children to talk used by medieval parents were equally effective as those used by contemporary parents. Mm. Let's move to the each one of it and analyze them and try to get the which of the option will be called as a potential flaw to it. Now, if I look into the first one, uh, the passage does not provide on the types of language spoken by medieval parents and whether they were the same as contemporary languages. So I could say that um, the option one is actually correctly point out that the argument's primarily flaw is not related to the types of languages spoken by medieval parents, as the central focus is what? Now, the central focus, if you see that, central focus central focus is on the shared preoccupation with teaching children to talk. Teaching children to talk, isn't it? So, teaching children to talk. Now, if I look into the option two, what I can point out here, uh, if you rightly observe that the role of formal education, isn't it? The role of formal education. So, and this could not be called as a primary flaw in the argument, right? As the passage discusses what? Informal methods for teaching children to talk, isn't it? The passage does not mention the role of formal education in teaching children to talk. So this is also not the flaw because in the passage itself, it doesn't talk about the idea related to the informal methods for teaching children to talk. So look at the option three. What option say three pointed here? Option three pointed, the passage does not consider the possibility that contemporary parents may have different motivations for teaching their children to talk. So if you accurately note that the motivations of contemporary parents are not the primary flaw in the argument, as the argument doesn't directly compare motivation, but rather emphasizes the shared preoccupation with teaching children to talk. Right. Now, if I look into the option four, so option four stated it assumes that the methods for teaching children to talk used by medieval parents were equally effective as those used by temporary parents. Now, the argument does assume that the methods used by medieval parents for teaching children to talk were equally effective as those used by contemporary parents. And this can be known as a lack of evidence or comparison is indeed a flaw in the argument, right? So hence we could consider that the option 4 would be correct one, whereas option 3, 2, and 1 can be eliminated because of the various ideas which we can draw, right? Um, like I can say, one stated about the types of language spoken by medieval parents are not the primary flaw in the argument. The argument focus on the shared preoccupation with teaching children to talk rather than language differences. Option 2 is also eliminated because of the role of formal education is not the primary uh, primary flaw in the argument. Option 3, the motivation of contemporary parents are not the primary flaw in the argument. The argument highlights the preoccupation with teaching children to talk, but doesn't make a direct comparison of motivation. So out of them, we can find out option 4 will be appropriate because it assumes that the methods for teaching children to talk used by medieval parents were equally effective as those used by contemporary parents. So this could be called as an appropriate answer to the question which has been asked here. I hope you understood. Let's move to the next question.